From the very first moment Claire Harper pushed open the heavy oak door of the old colonial house in Savannah, Georgia, she felt something in her chest twist and unexplainable pressure, a quiet storm forming inside her. Maybe it was the silence of the place, heavy with memories she didn't yet know. Maybe it was the exhaustion clinging to her like a second skin after months of struggling to rebuild her life. Or maybe it was simply fate, waiting patiently for her to take that first step inside. Whatever it was, she could never have imagined how meeting the woman on the other side of that house, her employer, would change everything she thought she understood about love, sacrifice, and second chances. That if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the quiet bravery of the human heart, please remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Your support helps these emotional stories reach more people who need them. Claire had come from a season of deep loss. A failed relationship, a heavy pile of debts, and the death of the grandmother who had raised her all within the same year had left her wandering through life like a ghost drifting from job to job. When she saw the listing for a live-in housekeeper needed by a wealthy widow named Margaret Addison, something told her to apply. Maybe it was desperation. Maybe it was the promise of a roof and some stability. Or maybe, in a way she didn't yet understand, her heart sensed the place she was meant to heal. The Addison home was immaculate, every corner polished, every antique carefully preserved, every echo filled with a strange loneliness. Margaret Addison, a woman in her early 40s with a quiet, composed elegance, welcomed Claire with a handshake that felt both firm and gentle, like someone who'd learned to hold herself together because if she didn't, she would fall apart. Her dark hair was tied in a low twist, her posture strong yet carrying the weight of grief she never spoke of. Claire could see it instantly, though she never mentioned it. She saw the pain in Margaret's eyes, the kind of pain you only understood if life had already broken you once. Claire's days fell into routine, cleaning the sunroom, scrubbing the old hardwood floors, caring for the overgrown rose garden, and preparing simple meals. But it was in the quiet moments, when the house settled and Margaret appeared in a doorway just to ask if Claire needed anything, that something strange began to bloom between them. Not romance, not yet, but recognition. Two souls haunted by loss. Two women pretending to be stronger than they felt. Two hearts reaching out like trembling hands in the dark. Margaret had lost her wife, Helena, 3 years before. The neighbors still whispered about it when they gathered on their porches, wondering how someone as poised as Margaret never remarried, never dated, never spoke of moving on. Claire only learned the truth slowly, through photographs hidden in drawers and the unspoken stories behind Margaret's quiet stares. Helena had been everything, the love Margaret built her life around, the person who made their home feel warm. Losing her had shattered Margaret's world so violently that even time struggled to stitch the pieces back together, and still, despite the tragedy, despite the ache that never quite left her face, Margaret treated Claire with kindness. She offered encouragement, praised Claire's work, left notes of gratitude on the kitchen counter. For the first time in years, Claire felt seen. Not as someone broken, not as someone rebuilding, but as someone worth caring for. As winter approached, Savannah's streets lit up with holiday decorations, and the Addison house filled with the soft glow of warm lamps and cinnamon-scented candles. Claire found herself drawn to Margaret in ways she didn't fully understand, ways that frightened her. She told herself that she admired her employer's strength, that she was grateful for her stability. But deep in the quiet chambers of her heart, she knew it was more. She knew, in ways that both terrified and comforted her, that she was falling for the woman who slept just down the hall. A woman she had no right to love. Margaret sensed the shift too. She found excuses to linger in rooms where Claire worked, asking questions she didn't need answers to. She laughed more often, a soft, melodic sound Claire wanted to bottle and keep forever. And at night, when the world grew silent and Claire walked past Margaret's study, she sometimes caught her employer gazing out the window with a look that wasn't sadness, but longing. Longing for company. For connection. For someone who could help her feel alive again, but neither of them dared cross the line. It was impossible. Unthinkable. Claire worked for her. Margaret was still grieving. And society, especially in the conservative hush of the old southern neighborhood, watched the Addison household far too closely. Still, fate doesn't care about boundaries. One stormy December evening, when thunder rattled the window panes and the power flickered out, Claire found Margaret sitting alone in the dark, her hands trembling around a candle. She had been sorting through Helena's old belongings, trying to let go, trying to move on, only to find herself drowning again in memories she wasn't strong enough to face. Without thinking, Claire knelt beside her, gently placing her hand over Margaret's. The warmth was electric, overwhelming, like two lost hearts finding each other by accident. Margaret didn't pull away. Instead, she let Claire hold her until her trembling eased. Then, in a whisper so fragile it almost broke the air, she said she didn't know how to let herself feel anything again. That sometimes she felt guilty for still being alive. That sometimes she wondered if love, once lost, simply never returned. Claire had no speech prepared, no poetic words, no perfect wisdom. She simply told her the truth. She told her that broken hearts don't stay broken forever, that healing is never betrayal, that love doesn't end when someone dies, it just changes shape. She told her that she wasn't alone, that she mattered, that she still had light inside her even if she couldn't see it. As the storm raged on outside, the two women remained close in the soft glow of candlelight. That night wasn't about romance. It wasn't about desire. It was about connection, two souls learning to breathe again. Weeks passed, and the house began to shift. Not physically, but emotionally. There were smiles where there had once been silence. Shared coffee in the mornings. Soft touches passed off as accidental. A warmth in the air that hadn't existed in years, and yet, neither woman confessed anything. They were afraid of judgment, of rejection, of crossing a line they could never uncross. Claire worried Margaret would see her love as disrespect toward Helena. Margaret worried Claire saw her grief as a burden. And so they lived in a delicate, trembling balance of almost love. The turning point came on a quiet January morning, when Margaret found Claire in the garden cutting away the dead rose stems. Winter's frost had left them brittle and wasted, but Claire tended to them with patience, whispering how spring always brings new life. Margaret watched her longer than she meant to watch, the careful hands, the soft concentration, the gentle hope Claire carried like a second heartbeat, and suddenly, she realized something astonishing, that the ache she felt wasn't guilt anymore. It was love. New love. Unexpected love. A love she had believed she'd never feel again. She didn't confess it with grand gestures or emotional speeches. She simply walked into the garden, placed her hand over Claire's once more, and let the silence between them speak. That silence changed everything. The days that followed were slow, tender, full of quiet revelations. Their relationship didn't need labels, explanations, or dramatic declarations. It simply existed, soft, real, delicate as a new bloom pushing through the winter cold. They became each other's healing, each other's warmth, each other's unexpected second chance, but the world beyond the Addison home was not so gentle. Neighbors whispered. Some friends questioned. A few even warned Margaret about letting a hired girl become too close. Old prejudices rose like shadows, reminding them that love, especially love that defied expectations, was rarely accepted easily. Still, they held on. Not because their love was perfect, but because it was honest. It made them braver. It made them whole. If this story touched your heart, please like, comment, share, and subscribe. Your support keeps these emotional stories alive and helps others find comfort in them too. Before the ending, here's a special request. Please comment below and tell us which moment in the story moved you the most. In the months to come, the roses in the Addison garden began to bloom brighter than ever, reds and pinks and whites bursting through the soil like hope refusing to die. Claire often joked that the flowers were simply reflecting what was happening in the house. Margaret agreed, though she liked to think the roses bloomed because love, true love, always finds a way to return, no matter how broken the heart or how impossible the circumstances.